The conversation around the breakfast table was less than lively. It looked like no one had slept well. Everyone was worried about the upcoming midterms, and now that what they had feared was before them, it appeared their appetites were failing as well. They all had plates stacked high with bacon and eggs and other food that might give them the energy to make it through the trials today, but now it appeared that all of them were left pushing the slop around listlessly. Their eyes kept jumping to the clock, none of them really wanting to hear the tone that would bring them to their fate. "Well," Dex said, as he pushed his tray away, "good luck, everybody. I hope you don't need it. I hope these damn midterms are just overblown, like most of the tests the adults tell us to prepare for." "If this is how we feel before midterms," Dunstan said, "I wonder what the finals are going to be like." Some of them laughed, but most of them just sat silently. Rebecca was trying to convince herself that it had just been a dream, but she was failing horribly. It was hard to convince herself that what she had seen was just a figment of her imagination. This was real life. Things like that only happened in movies or TV shows. Her mind was at odds with itself as she tried to convince it that there had been no monster in the tunnel beneath the schools, but an equally as insidious voice instructed her that it had all been real, and she should be very afraid. "Are you okay, Rebecca?" Masha asked, and the girl jumped a little as she looked around. "Sure, why wouldn't I be? You just look a little off, not quite yourself." Masha didn't want to say that she was picking up some of what Rebecca was feeling. She got the feeling that people didn't much like that. It made them feel like they were being spied on. She could catch glimpses of a monster or a big bug or something, and she wondered if this had been the subject of Rebecca's dream. She couldn't blame her for waking up screaming if she had dreamed something like that. She probably would have woke up too. It seemed to go deeper than that, though. Rebecca was afraid of something else, some hidden knowledge that she didn't want to share just yet, and Masha supposed that she could tell them when the time was right. Gerald didn't say anything. He ate his breakfast and took another sidelong glance at his friend. There was a similar duality going on with her, as had happened with the door, and now Rebecca had both a red and a blue string attached to her. It was odd that this should happen within a few days of each other, but he knew it to be significant in some way. When the bell rang, it almost felt like a reprieve from the table at large. "Well," Dex said, "I guess there's no putting it off any longer. Hopefully I'll see all of you at lunchtime. Hopefully you won't look like you've just gone 10 rounds with Rocky either," Dunstan said, and that got a genuine laugh out of all of them. They all headed off to whatever fate had in store for them, unaware that each would be changed in a different way when they returned. "All right, huddle up, red bands." Cutter called them in after some stretches, and his grin was absolutely predatory. "I'm sure you've all wondered what the midterms will consist of. Well, wonder no more, kids. Today's midterm will be pitched combat. This will not be pass or fail. It's simply a test of how your powers have grown. This will not be to the death," he said, eyes landing on Dick as he said it, "but death, if it occurs, will not disqualify you." Everyone made some noise to the affirmative, and Cutter seemed pleased. "So, I'm sure that some of you have noticed there aren't enough of us to pair off evenly. Well, you'll be helping the black band class with their midterm, since their only student will be sparring with us. Corsair, bring him in." Corsair, a man that Dex had only ever seen in passing, led in a fellow who he didn't think he'd ever spoken to, despite the fact that he slept 2 bunks down from him. He was unremarkable, his features completely generic, and his face was free of anything like scars or wear marks. The most outlandish thing about him was his shaved head. and he was dressed in a black uniform, similar to their red ones. He looked at them in that way kids sometimes look at thrift store toys. He looked at them like he thought they might be fun, but were something he would ultimately break. "This," Cutter said, "is Lionel. He'll be sparring with you today. Do not underestimate him, or you could be in for a very painful evening." Dick snickered, and when Cutter looked at him, there was no mirth in the older man's eyes. "Something funny, Dick?" "Well, yeah, this is a joke, right? I mean, we've been training in the gym for weeks, and this kid looks like he weighs about as much as one of my dumbbells. There's no way he's going to be able to stand toe-to-toe with us." Cutter grinned, and it did not look healthy. "Lionel might surprise you, and since you're so cocky about it, why don't you spar with him? It might teach you something that you can't find on the obstacle course or the mat." Dick laughed and cracked his knuckles. "Sure, let's see what the pipsqueak's got." Dick was taking off his sweats, so he didn't hear when Corsair spoke to the young man in the black uniform. "We're not playing for blood, Lionel. Just knock the kid out and don't hurt him." The boy nodded, but Dex was suddenly very glad he wasn't the one who had stepped up first. Lionel may look unassuming, but there was something about him. Dex didn't trust him. He'd seen kids like that on the street, the ones that would rather hurt people than survive. Lionel looked like he was going to be anything but a pushover, and Dex felt like that might be just what Dick needed to bring him down a peg or two. The two stepped onto the mat together, and Dick laughed again when Lionel bowed to him. Dick did not give him the same courtesy, and just as the kid's head came up, Dick hit him with an energy blast that sent him skittering across the mat. Lionel tumbled backwards, landing on the flat of his back, and he lay there for a moment, as if soaking it in. "Stay down, kid," Dick hissed at him. "I don't have any beef with you, but I will hurt you if you decide to keep going." When he got up, Dick was a little less jovial than he had been. Lionel brought his hands together with a loud pop, and they all jumped as a shockwave sent Dick falling backwards onto his rear. Dex was startled. The kid had used something very similar to Dick's own power set. Not only that, he'd used it better. His shockwave was a little more targeted and a lot less sloppy. Dick glowered at Cutter as he got up, confusion and anger at war with each other. "Just what the hell is this? The kid has the same power set I do? Why isn't he in this class already, then?" "Lionel doesn't have the same power that you do," Cutter corrected him. "Lionel is a black band. Black bands have quite a few powers on file, but this one is mimicry. Lionel can copy whatever powers are working around him. If we took him into the blue band room, he'd probably be able to touch things and figure out what they do, or interpret dreams, or see the future, or some shit like that. If we took him into the green band room, he'd be able to invade people's minds. He's in the red band room, so as soon as you attack him with whatever you have, he uses your meathead powers against you." Dick looked at the kid with a little more respect this time. "So the trick is to knock him out with one shot before he can get your powers. Message received." Dick ran to the left of him, Lionel following him as he spun in a slow circle. Dick shot another one of those power blasts at the kid, but Lionel was ready. He brought his hands together again, and when their powers met, it caused a shockwave that sent everybody falling to the floor. It was like being at the epicenter of a thunder crack, and Dex reached up to see if his ears were bleeding once he finally got back on his feet. It had knocked them all down, and Cutter was holding onto one of the weight racks like he wasn't feeling real steady either. Dick kept circling the kid, throwing out smaller attack waves, which Lionel countered with his own strange hand clapping. He looked like some 2-bit villain on a Saturday morning cartoon show, but Dex could tell that Dick was getting frustrated with all of this. He threw out a massive wave of energy, the sweat standing out on his forehead as he started scraping the bottom of the tank. But instead of countering it, like he had done before, Lionel ducked and let it pass over him harmlessly. In response, He brought his hands together and hit Dick in the midriff with a large bolt of power. Dick fell to the ground, writhing as he held his guts, and as the others gathered around him, they saw him pull his workout shirt up to reveal a large purple bruise. "I'm dying," Dick grunted, rolling on the ground and clutching at his bruised stomach. "You ain't dying, kid," Cutter said, helping him to his feet. "You just got an abject lesson in humility. Go to the nurse and get that checked out, but come back after she tells you it's just a bruise." Dick got to his feet, with some help, and limped off towards the common area. Dex doubted he would be back, and as Wade approached the mat, Dex wondered if he might have company in the nurse's office. The kid, Lionel, shuddered when Dick left the sparring area, and Dex supposed the black band had a range. That was probably good for him, otherwise he'd pick up so many powers just eating lunch that he'd probably go crazy. That'd be the first thing when you were teaching someone like this. If you didn't teach them how to turn it off, or at least how to muffle it, then your charge would probably burn out pretty quick. "Very well then, Wade," Cutter said. "Let's see if you can bring some glory back to the Red Band group." Wade grinned. "I think I get it," he mumbled, and his first strike came in hard and high. It was a good plan. Dick had just been a little too late to make good on it. Dex had thought that taking him out before he could use your powers was probably the best way to go, but as Wade slapped him in the head with what was probably the equivalent of a closed fist, Lionel turned and grinned back at him. Wade looked worried, but as long as he could keep ahead of him, he'd still make it out all right. Wade was no slouch, and as Lionel tossed his energy back at him, Wade kept dodging and moving. He tossed some of his own back at him, but as the leftover energy brushed past Dex and the others, it was pretty clear that Lionel had a heavier hand. Wade went down low as Lionel threw another bolt his way, and Dex could see his teeth chattering as it pushed the bridge of his nose back. "I don't know how I'm going to fight this guy," Ryan said to Dex, and he put a hand on his shoulder. "Carefully, that's how," Dex answered back. "Yeah, I'm not sure I want him scrambling my eggs if he got a hold of my juice." Dex shook his head. "I'm more worried about you hurting him, honestly." Ryan looked at him with surprise. "Me? Hurt him? I don't know if you've missed it," he said, as Wade took a direct hit to the chest, "but this guy's creamed one of our best and is making Wade work for every step. I don't think I have much of a chance here." "Not so," Dex said, nodding at Lionel as he sent another bolt of energy into the side of Wade's head. Dick was right, but he was also slow. If you can drop him with the first hit, then he can't even use your power. That being said, if you shut him down too hard, you could kill him. As Wade stumbled and then fell on the mat, Dex and Ryan stood in silence. "Good try, Wade. You did better than Dick, and that's saying something. You need the nurse?" Wade got up, stumbling like a punch-drunk fighter. Nah, I'm okay." He weaved back to the edge of the mat and dropped onto his backside. He was staring at the ceiling as Cece walked into the ring with a big grin on her face. "Have you done it before?" Ryan asked, the two of them watching Cece as she took her stance and lunged. Cece had gotten a lot better since her first week. She had been playing around with the scope of her powers and discovered a kind of switch that she could use to change the dimensions of her force. She had also gotten a hell of a lot stronger and more agile, and when she jumped over Lionel, a solid 8-foot leap into the air, even Cutter let out a whistle. She turned her jump into a flip, and as she came over the top of him, she fired her considerable power into Lionel's face, the boy having spun to meet her. Cece had begun using her force like a wall, making stopping points wherever she threw them up. She threw it up just in front of him now, and he slammed into it as he made to sprint after her. Dex winced as the kid's nose trailed blood, and he popped up and dove to the side as she threw another one in the direction that she had expected him to go. "Me? No. Well, almost once. Gang fights, Ryan. It's just the nature of the business. The weird boys had to throw down a few times, but our strangeness kind of spooked a lot of them. We don't have guns, we don't sell drugs, but we continue to thrive. A lot of them don't get it, and it makes them nervous. One of them, Traxler, decided he wanted to tangle with us. He didn't take us seriously. That much was obvious, but when he pointed a gun at Smoke, I must have snapped. I hit him hard enough to knock him unconscious. It was one of the biggest ones I'd ever done at the time. I just stood over him, ready to let fly again, but Wizard stopped me. He said it wasn't worth it, that I'd proven my power, and killing this guy would only cheapen it. We left, and the gang stopped bothering us. Sometimes it's what you're willing to do to make the difference, not who you're willing to kill. Ryan watched as Cece tripped Lionel and caught her own blast in the face when he rolled over. I don't think just wounding is going to be enough this time, Ryan said. And before Dex could respond, it was his turn. Good effort, Cece. Dexter, come show these guys how it's done. Dex patted the smaller boy on the shoulder, hoping the message would be understood, and stepped into the ring. He didn't try to knock him out in one shot. Instead, Dex lunged at the kid and socked him right in the mouth. Lionel recovered quickly, but Dex never let up. He just kept swinging, battering the kid as he walked him across the mat. One to the face, one to the chest, both shoulders, and then he swept the legs. He meant to pin him, to force a surrender, but Lionel rolled and got out of the way. The kid was tough, Dex could see that, and he began to wonder if this was a fight he could win. The kid had taken a beating, several beatings, and he wasn't even out of breath. He didn't even look tired, Dex thought, and when he swung at him again, Lionel caught it. Now, it seemed, it was Dex's turn. Lionel wasn't just tough. He was strong, too. Dex put his arms up to block the blows, but he felt them. What had this kid been doing for the last month? Dex had been in his fair share of scrapes, but this was like going 12 rounds with a real boxer. Dex was patient, though, and when the openings came, he took them. He hit the kid hard enough to hear his nose break, but when Lionel brought his head back around, his nose was still intact. Dex was panting by then, and when Lionel knocked him down, he didn't get back up. Cutter came to stand over him, shaking his head a little. What did we learn today, Dexter? Dunno, Dex said, coughing. Seems like I just learned how to get my ass kicked. Why didn't you use your powers? Dex sat up, rubbing his chin. 'Cause he would have stole them. I figured he'd be a pushover without them, so I just started beating on him. You didn't tell me that he could regenerate wounds, though. Cutter's grin was fiendish. Corsair over there is a washout, just like most of the instructors here. When he was here, his ability was regeneration. He may be burnt out, but he can still pass it to Lionel through touch. It's a little unfair, I'll admit, but it makes you brats work for it. Guess I failed, Dex said, getting to his feet and letting Cutter provide him a shoulder. Why? Cutter asked. Dex shrugged, wincing as his left shoulder ground a little. I hadn't used my powers, and I didn't overcome the situation. If he hadn't had that regenerative power, you would have creamed him. Also, your assessment was correct. If you don't give Lionel the ammo, then he can't fire the gun. What you didn't know is that they've been training Lionel for a month now, in a similar way that we have the rest of you, with one exception. As Ryan stepped hesitantly into the ring, Dex saw Lionel grin and bring his fists together. Corsair knows that Lionel has to get hit first, so he focused on endurance and pain control. Lionel is trained to take that opening hit and to send it back with all his might. Like I said, kid, you did good, but we cheated. Ryan sighed, looking at the bruised boy, and Dex almost felt the shift in his stance when he started using his power. Dex had gotten used to fighting through small waves of it when they trained, careful blasts. But what he was seeing now was no measured response. He wanted to go to Ryan and tell him not to do it. Not to do what it looked like he was going to do, at least, but it was too late for that. Lionel was still smiling, but the blood trickling from his nostril was becoming a fountain. Suddenly the smile was gone, and Lionel was staggering and clutching his head. "What the hell?" Cutter asked. "What's he doing?" "Stop him, sir," Dex breathed, having trouble finding his breath. You gotta stop him, or he's gonna..." The blood was coming from his ears now, too, and as Lionel pitched forward and fell to the mat, Cutter was running out to stop Ryan before he went too far. Dex didn't think he'd be in time. His pep talk had not had the right effect, and he could see that Ryan had gone for something a little more complete. Lionel had stopped thrashing by the time Cutter got out there, but by then it was too late. Corsair was checking Lionel, shaking him, and getting nothing. He looked at Ryan, but he wasn't sure until Cutter spun the boy to face him, and it seemed to break his concentration. "I said no killing," Cutter spat. "Those were the rules. Why would you..." "He isn't dead," Ryan said, his voice sounding hollow. "But I did neutralize him. He's a vegetable now. Can't hurt anyone anymore. I scrambled him. I won." "That's not what I..." "Isn't it?" Ryan asked, and he must have pushed a little at Cutter, because the man let him go and stumbled back a little. "You wanted us to knock him out in one shot, so I did. I knocked him out forever. I won. Did I give you some good data? Did it help you figure out how strong I am? I sure hope so. I sure hope it was worth it. Lionel would say it was." Cutter looked like he wanted to slap the kid, but instead, he just took another step back. "Midterms are over for red bands. The rest of the day is yours to do what you will. Get the hell out of my sight." Ryan walked past Cutter, walked past Dex, and left the gym. Dex wanted to go after him, but he felt it might be a bad time. Ryan had passed more than the midterm. He had crossed a line that Dex wasn't sure he could come back from. Good evening, everyone. It's me, Dr. Plague. Thank you so much for joining us for tonight's show. If you think you might like a little more spooky in your life, then please feel free to click on one of the videos we have up here. Maybe look at one of the playlists if you're trying to get caught up. I know, there's so many videos on the channel. There's so many series that are going at the same time. Sometimes you just need a little refresher course, and I gotta say, I always enjoy the views. If you're not subscribed, feel free to hit that subscribe button. Maybe hit the bell so you don't miss anything. We upload a lot on this channel, so you won't want to miss a single story as they come out. If you'd like to support the channel, you can click on the Amazon link down there. There's quite a few books in my Amazon account. You can have a look, and if you'd like a signed copy, get up with me through email, and I'll be happy to work something out with you. Also, there's links to my Patreon, and you can become a member on the channel if you'd like your spooky a little bit early. Patrons and members on the $5 tier get their videos 12 hours early. That's in the morning as opposed to in the evening. Patrons at the $10 level also get a signed copy of my book anytime I write one. Speaking of my patrons, you should see them appearing right now. Just wanted to take a minute to say how much I appreciate all of you. Patrons, subscribers, however you give to the channel. I really appreciate everything you do, and it truly touches me that you have chosen to support the channel in this way. Well, that's enough for now. Till next time, Dr. Plague, signing off. Have a wonderful evening.